Welcome, everyone. Bill hearings today. I do want to say HHS is in a briefing upstairs with the Health Committee, so they are excused. We will start with House Bill 226. It's a departmental bill. And I think we have Carol Beatty and Ann Blackfield. Welcome. Thanks for being with us. Good afternoon.
Chair Barnes, Vice Chair Kaiser, and members of the committee. My name is Carol Beatty. I'm the Secretary of the Maryland Department of Disabilities. I want to thank you, Chair Barnes, for introducing House Bill 226, which is the department's housing programs and affiliated foundations establishment. With me today is Deputy Secretary Ann Blackfield, who will address the amendment and answer any questions about the bill that the committee members might have. House Bill 226 has two core purposes that will help to secure the future of our department's work. This bill seeks to establish the department's current housing work in state statute. This affirms our deep commitment to the department partners, which is the Department of Housing and Community Development and the Maryland Department of Health, in our work to increase stable, affordable, and accessible housing for Marylanders with disabilities. Second, and equally important, is that it will allow the Department of Disabilities to establish one or more affiliated foundations, and these foundations will be designed to support our programs in housing, assistive technology, and employment. Diversified funding is required for these programs to remain sustainable and to expand so that we may serve more individuals with disabilities. Historically, these programs have relied heavily on federal funding. However, these funds are now often no longer available, have become much harder to obtain, nor are simply not enough to keep pace with rising costs and the growing need for program growth. Establishing a foundation has the potential to provide the flexible resources needed to fill these gaps. Currently, we manage 5 housing programs and have a wait list of over 4,000 people. Our Maryland Assistive Technology Program is our longstanding assistive technology program, which this committee helped to formalize into law last year. And while TAP is 100% federally funded, the grant has not kept pace with our needs and our rising costs. Furthermore, the AT loan program, which provides low-interest loans for assistive technology, adapted vehicles, and home modifications, currently receives no state funding at all. The Office of Disability Employment Advancement and Policy, known as ODEP, was created last year by the General Assembly through the Governor's Model Employer Act. ODEP is actively seeking additional resources to advance the state as a model employer initiative, which will include creating an assistive technology fund for reasonable accommodations for new state employees and providing essential job coaching services. I want to emphasize that no fiscal note is associated with House Bill 226, which is modeled on the structure of HB 717 for the Department of Natural Resources, which passed last legislative session. MDOD will use existing staff for the initial setup, and we fully expect the foundation to become self-sustaining. Importantly, the affiliated foundation will initially be operated by a board of volunteers, and MDOD will not be funding the foundation itself. In conclusion, House Bill 226 will help secure the future of MDOD's most critical programs, and by establishing our housing work in state law and creating a flexible foundation to pursue diverse funding, we can expand and support the work of our department to support Marylanders with disabilities for years to come. Thank you for your consideration of this legislation, and I respectfully request a favorable report.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you to the chair and the vice chair and the committee. My name is Ann Blackfield. I'm the Deputy Secretary of the Department of Disabilities. I echo the Secretary's request to provide a favorable report with amendments for House Bill 226. I do want to just briefly review the amendments, which should be in your folder, and we also did note in our testimony. As the Secretary mentioned, we did work very closely with the Department of Natural Resources to model what we did off of their successful legislation last year, House Bill 717, which created the Affiliated Foundation for DNR. We also had really helpful conversations with the State Ethics Commission and the Office of the Attorney General to review the legal and ethics provisions in the legislation. Out of our conversation with the Office of the Attorney General, they did suggest that we add an amendment, which is what you have before you. And that just clarifies by adding the phrase "the Office of" before the Attorney General. It clarifies that we will be working with our assigned Assistant Attorney General representing the Office of the Attorney General when developing any policies for the Affiliated Foundation. We're not expecting that the Attorney General of Maryland will be personally reviewing our policies. So we just wanted to make sure that was clear, and that's the amendment. That concludes my testimony. Again, I respectfully request a favorable report with our sponsor amendments. Happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thanks to you both. Thanks for your work and your testimony. Delegate Metzger.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I like this, and what I really like is no physical. Just as a curiosity question, these can be built anywhere in the state, correct?
The Affiliated
disability-
Foundation?
I'm sorry. The disability housing can be built anywhere?
Oh, yeah, I mean, I think it'll be, yeah,
And
it's
so-
ideally statewide, yes.
Just so I'm clear, so nonprofits can also kind of take advantage of this and try to build a place for the disabled?
I guess, yeah, the hope would be to continue to pursue funding the way that we have in the past
Right.
and working with partners to develop housing wherever
That's kind of where I'm
the
getting
need
at.
is, yeah. So.
Right. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, I don't see any other questions. Thanks for the bill. Thanks for your time. Have a good day. Move on to House Bill 232, another departmental bill. I think we have Andrew Collins, Military Department. Welcome.
Right. Good afternoon, Chair Barnes, Vice Chair Kaiser, and the distinguished members of the committee. My name is Brigadier General Andrew Collins, the Deputy Adjutant General for the Maryland Military Department. Thank you for the opportunity to testify in support of House Bill 232, Maryland Military Department National Guard Tuition Assistance. House Bill 232 aligns with the priorities of the Moore-Miller administration, creating an equitable, robust, and competitive economy through providing access to vocational equipment that will have the following positive impacts: reducing Maryland's underemployment rate, improve labor force participation, and enhance financial readiness of soldiers, airmen, and their families. The statutory change would enable the Maryland Military Department to support service members by reimbursing career-related overhead expenses, specifically reimbursing service members directly for approved costs incurred while enrolled in state-certified apprenticeship programs, including personal protective equipment, tools, certification or licensing fees, and trade-required equipment and materials. HB 232 also allows for use of the existing state tuition assistance reimbursement, otherwise known as STAR, education funding to directly support Maryland National Guard service members pursuing state-certified apprenticeship programs. The Maryland Military Department recognizes that access to high-quality equipment, tools, and technology is essential to effective vocational training. This change to the Maryland STAR education program will help to provide equitable access to equipment and learning materials across all programs, ensuring that no one is disadvantaged due to lack of personal resources, and also eliminate barriers that disproportionately impact historically marginalized communities, including financial, geographic, or physical obstacles. The bill does not have a fiscal impact. So for these reasons, I urge the committee to issue a favorable report for HB 232. Thank you for your time and consideration. I'm available for questions.
Thank you. Any questions? Okay, thanks for being with us. Thanks for your service. That concludes the bill here. Now move on to House Bill 222, also departmental. I think we have Alan Garman and Bruce Gartner. 229, I'm sorry, 229. Alan Garman and Bruce Gartner.
Good afternoon, Chair and members of the committee. For the record, my name is Bruce Gardner, Executive Director of the Maryland Transportation Authority. We are here in support of our departmental bill, House Bill 229, which increases the MDTA's bonding limit from $4 billion to $5 billion. This proposed legislation is a response to both near-term financing needs associated with our capital program and the specific financing needs related to the Key Bridge reconstruction project prior to federal highway reimbursements and potential legal recoveries. So a few facts about our bonding limit. It is established in statute in Maryland Code Transportation Article 4-306. And in November, our board did support and approve the forecast that projects debt outstanding to exceed $4 billion beginning July 1 of 2028. Depending on that federal reimbursement timing for the Key Bridge, the bonding limit could be exceeded earlier, beginning in fiscal year beginning in July 27. That's why we're here today. We really want to make sure that we get this legislation passed and we demonstrate to both the federal government and our bondholders that we have all the tools in place to deliver both the Key Bridge rebuild project and our capital program. So a little bit of a deeper dive into the two needs on the Key Bridge. Given the federal reimbursement complexity of the project, there is a need to provide upfront funding for all costs associated with the bridge, and the MDTA is assuming that the financing needs are approximately $1.2 billion for the Key Bridge. We are also assuming a 12-month lag in those reimbursements from the federal government, given the federal appropriations process and the emergency relief program. Now, slower or faster reimbursements would result in lower or higher financing needs, respectively. So we are that's the assumption that we have right now, is that $1.2 billion in financing needs. So along with the Key Bridge, the second cost driver of this is the delivery of our capital program and our system preservation program. Our trust agreement at the MDTA does require us to maintain the facilities in good working order. So having a lower bond limit of $4 billion could hamper our efforts to keep our facilities in a state of good repair. And also another reason to move forward with bonding limit increase would to reduce the reliance on PAYGO funding, and which would put increased pressure on a toll increase when we come to the time to adjust tolls for the Maryland Transportation Authority. So the limit increase that we are seeking supports the completion of our existing program and those system preservation projects. The legislation, as I said, did receive approval from the board, and I'd like to just urge your favorable approval of this legislation. Thank you. And Alan's just here for questions if I need support.
Delegate Edelson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you for this and for all the work that you both do. My constituents rely on you heavily. We all do. So I wanted to thank you for all the hard work that you put in. Just wanted to ask you the question of tolls. What is the status of discussions on the need to ultimately increase tolls?
So we will have the need to increase tolls in fiscal 28. So we'll be presenting recommendations to our board next calendar year for those for consideration.
Okay, thank you.
And there is a public hearing process associated with all that in each of those jurisdictions.
The increase to $5 billion was based on the assumption of the cost. Did you say $1.2 billion of the Key Bridge?
No, there's two different things. So with respect to the cost of the Key Bridge, that update that we did back in November was related to all the engineering and all the design work that we've been doing over the course of the past 14 months.
I guess what I'm asking is, do you anticipate this $5 billion limit being enough for the higher cost of the Key Bridge as it's been determined lately?
For the bond limit, yes, that's our assumption in all the forecasts, that this is what we need to deliver at that $5.2 billion level is what's programmed in our forecasts. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you for being here today and presenting the Key Bridge. Lost me. The Key Bridge is my next-door neighbor, so I'm very close to this. My colleague mentioned tolls, and I know we went from 1.5 billion to $5 billion. I know that happened like overnight almost. I'd like for you to explain how that went from that to that. And then the other part is because of the community that I serve that uses the toll bridge, the Key Bridge, and I want to say it bluntly, the aggravation that they've got to go around. A 15-minute drive now takes an hour and a half to 2 hours. I think that it should be taken into consideration that our local folks that have used that and pay enough tolls as it is to either give them free or reduced and get a special sticker for their car to have that reduced or eliminated, quite honestly. Because it went from now, it's going to be, what, year 2030 before it's done?
The end of 2030, yes, is our estimated completion
So
date.
it's even further out, and it's a lot of, I don't know if you've driven around that way, but the traffic is horrendous. And in the mornings, it's terrible. I have school teachers that have to leave their house at 6 o'clock in the morning just to get there by 8:30. So I would like for you to consider that, if you don't mind.
Yes, so a few questions in there that I'll respond to. The reasons for the cost increase of the bridge, our original estimates were done 13 days after the collapse of the Key Bridge. That approximately $2 billion estimate that we had was a range of 1.7 to 1.9 billion, was based on other bridges without doing any engineering for the project, without having any of the analysis done for the peer protection that's required for new bridges. So we made certain assumptions with their best that we could do at that time in that expedited process. What we have been doing since that original estimate is getting that design builder on board, going through and getting up to set that 70% design to make sure that any number that we came out to the public with that we put in our financial forecasts was accurate to the best of our ability, and that's why in November we came out with that new estimate. Those new increased costs were driven by three different things. One is that overall width of the bridge to keep it out as far outside of that main channel as possible. So having that longer bridge, it's also slightly higher than we initially assumed based on our Coast Guard permit. We made an assumption of 215 feet clearance. It's at 230 feet clearance. So that's a big cost driver of the increase from the 2 billion to the 5 billion. The other thing was associated with that peer protection. So the peer protection that we have, that you've shown graphics on back in November and leading up to this, football field size peer protection on there as opposed to any kind of smaller rock island. That is based on those design standards that are developed by the national associations that we have to comply with for new bridges, and that resulted in about $1 billion more in the peer protection for this project. So that and then just the inflation that every large project is seeing as we're going through this had us come to that increased number. So that was the first question that you asked, I believe, that you have a follow-up.
Right. I just want to make sure that the Valley people pay for this too, you know, the people that cause it.
Yes, as I mentioned early on, the Attorney General has been very helpful in the aggressive pursuit of the litigation against the ship owners and operators, and we expect to get significant reimbursement about that. I'll let the Attorney General comment on all that part of the case, other than to say in June there is a hearing about that limitation of liability. So June is a significant time period for knowing what that litigation will result in.
I just want to fight for my constituents. I think they need to get free tolls for at least a couple of years. Thank you.
Appreciate that, sir. You did mention the traffic. I drive through the tunnels every day to get to our offices in Dundalk. See it every day. We're doing as much as we can. We've explored some options that, you know, wouldn't necessarily pan out, but we are doing everything we can to improve that commute. It's just a lot to try to deal with it when we don't have a new bridge in place. In terms of the tolls, message received, we have our toll considerations coming up. There's only a limited amount that we can do in different categories, but we'll be looking at all options.
Okay, I don't see any other questions. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you very much for your time.
That concludes the bill hearing. Moving on to House Bill 399. Delegate Forbes, and I think Ann Galthrop is with us. All right. Welcome.
Good afternoon, Chair Barnes, Vice Chair Kaiser, and members of Appropriations. I'm Kathy Forbes, here to give testimony in support of HB 399. Last legislative session, we passed HB 584, which convened a work group to study transfers between state and local pension systems and other state and local pension systems. They convened during the interim and found that the work is taking longer than they expected. So the bill before you today would extend the time that the work group can work and the due date of their report back to us.
Great. Any questions? Okay. Good to see you, Ann.
Good to see all of you.
Take care. All right, let's move on to the next bill. House Bill, I don't see Delegate Schindler here. Delegate Embry, Delegate Fair. You know what happens if, I start to do these bill hearings. Is anybody here on any of these bills? Yeah. I see Delegate Embry's folks here. Why don't you guys come on up and we'll take that bill. Yeah. And I will introduce the bill. Let's see, House Bill. Yes, we have.
House Bill 387. Yeah.
Yep. Bill prohibits an entity from including provisions in a state contract for public art that require an artist to waive copyright protections or rights under federal law, but allows an artist to choose to waive protections or rights in writing. With that, we do have some witnesses. Welcome.
Hi, thank you, Mr. Chair, Madam Chair, honorable members of the committee. My name is Nicholas Cohen. I'm the Executive Director of Maryland Citizens for the Arts. We are the statewide arts advocacy organization that champions public investment in Maryland's vibrant arts sector. We represent the interests of thousands of artists across Maryland. Okay. I'm here in full support of House Bill 387, and I thank the delegate for her incredible support of artists. This bill protects the rights of artists who create state-funded public art by ensuring they cannot be forced to waive their federal copyright or visual artist rights protections as a condition of their contracts. These rights preserve the integrity of a work of art and protect the artist's reputation and legacy. Public art is not decoration. It is long-term investment in Maryland's communities. It enhances vibrancy, supports economic development, strengthens identity, and contributes to our collective health and well-being. These works become landmarks and carry meaning far beyond their installation date. When they are altered or damaged without the artist's consent, that public investment is permanently compromised. This bill also creates a simple, effective process to register state public art with the Maryland State Arts Council. That means better stewardship, better documentation, and greater accountability for the artwork that belongs to all of us. HB 387 is limited, reasonable, and balanced. It applies only to projects involving state funds. It does not prohibit voluntary waivers, but it ensures that any waiver is intentional and in writing. Most importantly, it affirms that Maryland respects artists, protects artist integrity, and values the public stake in preserving cultural legacy. With that said, I respectfully urge this committee to support House Bill 387. Thank you.
And welcome, Delegate Embry. I've introduced the bill for you. I think, did we pass this bill last year?
We did, and
Yes.
forgive me, I was monitoring, but you moved so
No
quickly.
worries. We moved pretty quickly over here in appropriations.
I'm jealous, we're in our first bill.
So we moved it last year. We'll probably move it out this year. Yeah.
We did, and I appreciate it. If I could, I think that was a perfect description
Good.
of the bill, so I won't do that, but if I could, just two things that have changed. One, in an effort to move it through the Senate, we have adjusted the bill slightly to make it only prospective, so it would not apply to contracts already signed. And then Senator Kagan, who cross-filed the bill, has suggested, and forgive me if you did mention this, has suggested that we amend it to make the registry public as a sort of economic development effort. So I will, I'm going to work with her, but I will probably be proposing that amendment. But otherwise, it is identical to what you passed, and thank you so much.
Make sure we get that amendment, gets drafted, gets to council, so we can put it on if that's your desire.
Thank you.
And we do have another witness.
Okay, good afternoon, Chair Barnes and Vice Chair Kaiser. My name is Lauren Dugas Glover. I sent in written testimony, so I will be very brief, but I just wanted to introduce why I'm here today. I was one of the chief advocates who argued for this legislation for the state's Commission on Public Art. I was its inaugural director and a commissioner, and I'm bringing 25 years of experience in public art administration across Prince George's County, Maryland, and the District of Columbia, and continue to serve in advisory capacities in that way. Protecting the right of public artists is paramount, as it is with any creative profession. This legislation affirms that Maryland respects the rights of artists and recognizes a public interest in preserving the integrity and legacy of the state's investment in publicly funded art. Establishing a framework that safeguards artists and supports administrators and others for responsible installation and conservation of public art is vital. HB 387 achieves these objectives and clearly demonstrates that Maryland values its artists and the public spaces in which it enriches. For these reasons, I respectfully urge a favorable support of House Bill 387.
Your advocacy for the arts being with us today. Any questions? Delegate Watson.
Today. So remind me what happened to this bill last year when we introduced it.
So we passed it very quickly out of the House. Thank you so much to this committee, and it did not receive a vote over on the Senate side.
But it has only been introduced 1 year, and you
Yes,
believe
this
you
is the
have
second year, and we hope that this amendment or this change will afford it more success.
Well, we have many artists out there who have done a lot of public art, especially because the cities and towns have written it into their zoning codes.
Correct.
And so the ownership rights or the copyrights, the integrity of the artwork is what the artist provides. And what we've seen in the past in our county and in others is that projects can be built and the county or the jurisdiction treats it as a capital project and not a work of art. And then over time, the project can degrade with the changing of administrations, for example. And that's what you're trying to protect the integrity of that artist and the artwork. So your amendment to make it only go forward is somewhat disappointing, but I can certainly understand what you're trying to accomplish. We happen to have a family member who's a very famous public artist, and I know that they have struggled with this concept. And actually, the committee saw some of that work when we were in Cumberland? Cumberland, yeah. So good work on bringing the bill forward.
Thank you very much.
All right, we'll follow your lead on the amendment if
Thank you.
it's necessary to get it passed, but we'll get it moving as quickly as we can.
Thank you.
All right, any other questions? Thanks. That concludes the bill hearing. Delegate Schindler, you were part of this committee. You know what happens when you're not here for your bill hearing. Welcome back. We miss you. House Bill 3. Yes, bring up whoever you have with you, please. Katie Nash. And I think we have a virtual witness, Stephen Jones. If they're here, we can get them queued. All right, welcome.
Thank you, Chair Barnes, Vice Chair Kaiser. Colleagues, we're glad to be back into the Appropriations Committee. For the record, my name is Delegate Matthew J. Schindler, and I'm here to present House Bill 3. House Bill 3 is cross-filed in the Senate as Senate Bill 212 by Senator Quarterman. House Bill 3 is very simple. It would grant in-state or in-county tuition to a Maryland public institution of higher learning for the dependents of a state or local public safety employee who died in the line of duty, regardless of the dependent's residency. Maryland has a long and proud track record of standing by the families of those who make the ultimate sacrifice to our communities. This bill builds on that commitment by ensuring that dependents are not denied the educational opportunity because of circumstances created by tragedy. After a line of duty death, families are often forced to make difficult decisions, whether to move closer to extended family, seek employment elsewhere, or simply find the support that they need to heal. House Bill 3 ensures that when those decisions result in a move out of our state, the dependent does not lose the benefit Maryland intended to provide. The sacrifice was made here in service to Maryland, and our obligation should not disappear because the family's address has changed. Over the past 12 years, 32 Maryland public safety employees have died in the line of duty. Each represents a family forever changed and a responsibility for our state to honor that sacrifice in a meaningful way. House Bill 3 does exactly that. It affirms that Maryland looks after the families of its fallen heroes, not just immediately after a tragedy, but in the years that follow, regardless of where life might take them. Thank you for your time, and I respectfully respectfully request a favorable report on House Bill 3.
Very good. Katie, welcome.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, Vice Chair Kaiser, members of the committee. Katie Nash representing IAF Local 3666. Our virtual witness today is the president of our local. We thank you for the indulgence of the committee to consider our virtual witness. Mr. Jones was supposed to be here in person, but being a public safety professional, all the snow, all the scheduling got messed up. So thank you for hearing me instead and for hearing him virtually. We are here, we requested the introduction of this bill following a line of duty death in Frederick County. We lost Josh Laird. That tragedy led us to understand better the public benefits that are afforded or not afforded in this case to those line of duty death members and their families and when they reside out of state. And Stephen is here today to answer any technical questions on the implementation of those benefits, but we very much urge a committee favorable report on this bill. I wanted to note that there is no material impact as noted in the fiscal note, and thank you for a favorable report.
Good. Let's take questions for the in-person witnesses, and then we'll take Stephen Jones, if that's okay. Any questions? Delegate Edelson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you for bringing the bill. Great to see you, despite the excellent three-piece. Question that I have, you said the benefits would flow regardless of residency status. Does that include citizenship status?
I don't know the answer to that question, but I'm happy to find out for you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks.
We have a fairly prescriptive statute on that, so I would think that that would still come into play, and maybe you'd have to satisfy both, but maybe council can look at it. Delegate Harrison.
Thank you. I just wanted to make sure that I completely understand. So an individual whose parent guardian passed in the line of duty, but they may be out of state, so that come back to the state to go to school. Is that what you're saying?
Absolutely. It would be for a Maryland school.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to make sure I was understanding.
I think we have so many of our firefighters, if you're not familiar, they do 24 on, 72 off. So a lot of our firefighters live in Pennsylvania, live in West Virginia. So their families may be residents there. They're working for us here in Hagerstown or wherever. They could have a line of duty death there. And I think the presumption is that then they could have in-state tuition here too. But Stephen Jones will probably give us more details on that. Mr. Jones, welcome.
Good afternoon. Chair Barnes, Vice Chair Kaiser, and members of the committee. My name is Stephen Jones. I serve as president of the Career Firefighters Association of Frederick County, IAF Local 3666. I'm also representing the professional firefighters of Maryland today. And passage of House Bill 3 is a legislative priority for us this year. House Bill 3 ensures that financially dependent children of state or local public safety employees who lose their life in the line of duty are not burdened with out-of-state costs or out-of-county tuition at Maryland public colleges and universities. I'd like to take a brief moment and explain the current benefit structure and what this legislation proposes would change. When a line of duty death occurs, and if the Maryland officer or firefighter resides in the state of Maryland, the children receive no cost tuition. When a line of duty death occurs, and if the Maryland officer or firefighter resided outside of the state of Maryland, the line of duty death family would be handed the bill for the difference in the tuition between the out-of-state and in-state rate. Simply put, this legislation seeks to remove the additional cost burden to those children who their family member dies in the line of duty who resides outside of Maryland. Appreciate your consideration on this legislation and respectfully ask for a favorable report.
All right. Thank you, firefighter, and thanks for your service. Any questions for our firefighter who is with us? Okay. Thanks for the bill. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you so much.
Bill Harry. Thank you.
Thank you.
Delegate Fair, I think I did see with us. All right. Welcome, sir. House Bill 64. And Delegate Fair, you do have Victoria Venable and Cassandra Day. If they're part of your panel, you can bring them up, and then we can queue up Christina Duncan Evans from BTU as our virtual witness.
Thank you very much. Chair Barnes, Vice Chair Kaiser, and esteemed members of the Appropriations Committee, for the record, I'm Delegate Chris Fair, presenting House Bill 64, a study group to analyze Maryland's per pupil funding formula for public school systems, specifically examining inequities in growing school systems due to the current fixed point-in-time population count. In effect, for growing districts, the current method guarantees an undercount of students for the following year, resulting in inequitable funding levels. This bill passed unanimously in the Senate last year, but did not advance in the House. The current formula uses the student enrollment count from September 30th of the previous school year to determine a school system's population and associated per pupil funding allocation. Using year-old population data that does not reflect current student numbers delays the accurate distribution of state funds, causing significant resource issues for all schools, but most adversely harming growing school systems. Responsive to educators in my district and across the state, this bill establishes a task force composed of members of the General Assembly, state institutions, and school personnel representatives to examine challenges flowing from the current point-in-time count. The recommendations from the report will address the staffing and resource challenges that growing school systems face. When state-guaranteed funds for each student are not accurately distributed, schools often depend on local reserve funds to cover the difference, leading to cash flow issues, staffing shortages, and compounding the impact of underfunding of essential programs such as English as a second language and special needs education. All students deserve adequate resources, support systems, and staff when they are needed at the beginning of each school year. More simply put, students and teachers deserve what is guaranteed to them by law. By addressing school challenges due to growth in their student populations and ensuring their associated needs are met promptly, the task force insights will lead to a more equitable and efficient distribution of funds rather than the current method, which leaves some school systems and their students without the resources to teach, learn, and meet the demands placed on them. Finally, I've introduced a sponsor amendment parallel to my cross-file that adds the Baltimore Teachers Union to the task force, and in an effort to minimize any costs to the state, specifies that members of the task force will determine the staff of the task force, and MSDE will provide the data needed. I urge the Appropriations Committee to take this step towards ensuring resource equity by studying how to best equip our schools and their students with the necessary funding to support their future and Maryland's future. I respectfully ask for a favorable report for House Bill 64. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Welcome, whoever wants to go next.
Okay. Good afternoon, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. My name is Casey Day, and I am a Maryland public school educator with more than 30 years of classroom experience. I am from Frederick County, and I'm here today in support of House Bill 64. From the classroom perspective, the foundational funding formula is not a theoretical concept. It determines what teaching and learning looks like every day in classrooms across the state. In Frederick County now, for many years, enrollment counts based on prior years have left our schools underfunded by roughly 500 to 1,000 students annually. Those students are in our classrooms now, but the funding that's to serve them lags far behind. And because counties like ours don't receive the foundational funding for the actual students sitting in our classrooms, our schools are forced to absorb those gaps through staffing cuts, larger class sizes, and reduced course offerings for our students. At the high school where I teach, we have some classes that now exceed 45 students. I teach computer science, and I have a class now of 36 brand new programmers coding for their very first time. And this is a very hands-on class that relies on frequent one-to-one support for my students, which is becoming increasingly difficult as class sizes grow. Now, underfunding also creates course inequities in access. To ensure that my seniors could complete their required career pathway courses for graduation, I volunteered to teach 5 different courses last semester in just 3 class periods. That meant I was teaching AP Computer Science along with my beginners in the same period. Because our increased class sizes mean that we have fewer teachers to do so. One school in our county lost their choral program. Others have lost access to certain world languages or career pathway courses. Now, these aren't issues due to efficiency or effort. Our educators are skilled and deeply committed, but we're not miracle workers. Our funding model that lags behind enrollment and understates real classroom needs limits what even excellent teaching can accomplish. House Bill 64 is a reasonable step to examine whether Maryland's foundational funding formula reflects the actual students in our classes and funds them equitably across the state. I respectfully urge a favorable report. Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Chair Barnes, Vice Chair Kaiser, and members of the Appropriations Committee. For the record, my name is Victoria Venable, and I am the Government Relations Director for the Frederick County Executive, Jessica Fitzwater. I want to thank the delegate for introducing this legislation, and I want to thank this body for the work that they've done to promote a collaborative approach in Frederick County to look at this problem. We actually passed, or you all actually passed, a task force bill a couple of years ago that looked at the specific Frederick County issues that could be better addressed at the state level. And this was one of the recommendations, to take a look at this funding formula. So as you know, Frederick County, or as you may know, Frederick County is the fastest growing jurisdiction in the state of Maryland, and that's particularly present in our school system. As you may know, Frederick County Executive Jessica Fitzwater is a former educator herself, and so year after year, her budget has invested far over maintenance of effort requirements. And one of the reasons beyond her valuing the education system is recognizing that in many ways the county is forward funding many of these students because of the delay in the funding that we get for the state share. So just for some reference on how fast our school system is actually growing, we surpassed the 2030 projections of school enrollment that were determined by the State Department of Education and Department of Planning 3 years ago. So it is 2026, that was 2023 when we passed that number. We keep going up, and I think that's a wonderful testament and an endorsement of our school system and the community we have in Frederick County. And they are students that we want to be in our classrooms. We want our county to grow and continue to see this prosperity. It's an asset to the state, but it does come with challenges, and this is one of the solutions that we've been able to identify to help ensure that we can keep up with that growth. So every dollar that we are unable to receive because of this funding formula is a dollar that the county can't put forward for blueprint implementation, or addressing our aging infrastructure, or meeting the capacity concerns in our actual physical buildings. So thank you once again for considering this bill, and please let us know if you have any specific questions.
All right, thank you so much. Questions? So is this geared, oh, go ahead, Delegate Harrison.
Thank you. A few years ago, I had a conversation with one of the senior leaders in our local school system that talked about something similar to this, and most specifically addressing probably more the elementary school students, where they may not have their vaccinations and their physicals in time, and this count takes place at September the 30th, and they may not be able to get into whatever doctor they need to see until October. So essentially, they're not enrolled at that point. Will this address that same type of issue? You talked about the growing school systems, but it seems to me like this bill could address and resolve that same issue.
Yeah, that's a good question to look into as well, and certainly something that the task force could evaluate as they're looking at these growing school systems, which, to be clear, while I'm very proud of my Frederick County representation up here, I will say we have representation for growing school systems all across the state that are equally struggling with the same exact financial burden and hurdle that they need to figure out how to overcome. And those kinds of evaluations, or the way we are establishing our health records and the way we're evaluating our students, could certainly be addressed inside of the bill, or inside of the task force. Yeah.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
She just tapped onto something that sparked my interest. Thank you for the bill, and I can see the importance of this throughout the state. I really can. Yeah. But sometimes when we have, by the way, it is an election year for a task force. As I was looking there, everybody you have on there is going to be out jumping. So how many times do you think you'll be trying to put a group together for one question? And the other part is when you have the real hard-hitting questions, honestly, and what's to say if it doesn't go your way? How is that going to hammer out, so to speak?
Yeah, so the task force will take 1 year to analyze everything. So they're scheduled to conclude their work June 30th, 2027 is the goal. So they would start July 1st of 2026. In order to lower and minimize the cost of the task force itself, we're actually going to figure out how to staff it within the existing task force instead of having a state agency or somebody else provide the staff for that in order to keep the costs down. And so the goal really is the one thing we keep looking at and the challenge that we keep running into is everybody just says, well, the answer is just throw you more money. And we keep saying, we have to have a more holistic look at this problem and be able to understand how we can maybe make these things move possibly with costing the state, more money, or possibly without costing the state more money. But we just don't know because we've never really dug deep on this issue. We did with decreasing school systems a few years ago. We said, okay, if the school's decreasing population and then we as a state are disinvesting in that community, is that really the message we want to send to those communities? And the answer is no. And so we did the same exact thing. We did a long study on this. We looked into it. We came up with recommendations and made adjustments to the blueprint accordingly.
Or do like I've said before, if you can't pay for it, stretch it out to where you get the whole product.
Exactly. And that's, again, things we can look at.
And the other part was it said on or before December 15th, 2026 to report the findings.
Oh, yes, I apologize. And it'll carry forward. I apologize.
That's what threw me off then. Okay.
Further enacted. Sorry, my apologies.
That's no problem. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, well, thank you all. Thanks for your advocacy. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair.
That's our last bill. Oh, we do have a virtual witness. I'm sorry. BTU, Christina Evans. So if you can pull up. Welcome. You're on. Good to see you. I think you're just muted, so just turn off the mute and you're ready to roll.
Thank you so much. My name is Christina Duncan Evans, and I am the Teacher Chapter Chair of the Baltimore Teachers Union, and I am reporting from Dunbar High School in Baltimore City. I appreciate the attention of the staff. Thank you, Delegate Barnes, Chair Barnes. Thank you, Vice Chair Kaiser. The Baltimore Teachers Union is not currently represented in task force participants, and we thank the sponsor for submitting an amendment to include us. Why do we need to be on the task force? Well, in 3 ways. The most extreme situations in the state happen in Baltimore City. We have the most extreme situations when it comes to challenges that we face, our students' challenges, the lack of budget transparency at the school-based level, and the impact that funding has on our students. We have a lot of extreme situations, and it's important that they be represented in the task force. Another reason why we need to be on the task force is that Baltimore City Public Schools has had a fair student funding model for over a decade. And that means that enrollment determines funding to a much more granular and, again, extreme way than in many other jurisdictions. Enrollment is very much, we live by enrollment, we die by enrollment. School budgets in Baltimore City are tied to student funding. School budgets are tied to student enrollment to a much larger degree than other school districts. In our written testimony, we've suggested language that's taken from the state regulations for the Professional Standards and Teacher Education Board, PSTEB, because what we have experienced in the past is anywhere where MSEA has a seat at the table, BTU has a seat at the table. And here in the PSTEB language, the language is pretty clunky, but we support the sponsor's amendment to either directly say Baltimore Teachers Union or our statewide affiliate, AFT Maryland, because PSTEB is a long-standing board.
Yeah, Christina, that's 2 minutes, but that's 2 minutes, but we're not going to pass the task force without you on it, I promise.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
Have a great day.
All right, you too. Any other? Okay. Any other questions? All right, thanks for being with us, Delegate. Good to see you all. I think that concludes our real hearing. Thanks. Bye.